failure. He had all the trappings of what would happen to a person when they don't submit themselves to God. And it's just the way of human flesh. It didn't have to be any specific person. It didn't have anything to do about a person's, name, their worth, their education and background. God, the Bible says in Psalm 75, God, promotion don't come from the east and the west, the north or the south. God raises one up, and he takes another one down. And so Saul, he could have had a lasting, great legacy, but he would not continue the discipline that he needed in order to keep the presence of God on his life. And we see him on at least 7 or 8 occasions trying to kill the very man who God put in his life to help him, who would ultimately become the next king. As you begin to read through the narrative in your traditional Bible, you will see how and why God took the kingdom away from Saul and gave it to David, his successor, who would go down in history as Israel's greatest king. What you would discover is that David made as many mistakes and even graver ones than Saul, but God actually showed favor to David over Saul. Like Cain and Abel, who both presented an offering to God, one was received and the other rejected. The mark of Saul's kingship was pride. The mark of David's kingship was humility. And when you read through the next scene and compare the two men, you'll see. As we reflect upon the disposition of these men, when confronted with their sins, it becomes clear why God chose David. David heard from the prophet, even though he thought he had hid his sins and nobody knew. God sent the prophet to the palace to let him know what he did in the dark. I'm going to expose it all. And David ultimately, when Nathan spoke to him and gave him the parable, he figured out immediately. It was me. The prophet said to him, it's you. But David all along knew what he had done. It wasn't like he didn't know.